What's happening, y'all? Scorpius here with a powerful warrior leveling guide for Path of Exile 2. I've prepared two variations of high damage builds that you can choose from for a full campaign clear with any ascendancy. Like the video and subscribe for more Path of Exile 2 builds, guides, and news. If you have any questions, drop a comment, join Discord, or catch me live over on Twitch or here on YouTube. All of the relevant links can be found in the description below. So, as always, we're going to start with the abilities, but as I said before, on max roll you're going to be able to find two variations of this build. Variation number one is going to consist of all of the abilities of the warrior, and once again, you don't need to be a Smith of Kitava. It's something that I chose because that's what I'm going to do with the endgame guide. You guys can go for a Titan or a Warbringer. Absolutely up to you. There are no abilities that we use of the Kitava, so it doesn't really matter. You will have this variation as the main and prime abilities of the warrior, or variation number two is you can cheese your way through the campaign with the Rake build. I'm gonna put the thumbnail of my video that shows you how you can actually level up any kind of class with this speed running leveling build, which is universal for every single class, and the link is going to be in the description. So for the abilities, we have two very important abilities that is usually a 1-2 combo. We've got Leap Slam and Boneshatter. You use Leap Slam to jump in the air, knocking back and damaging everything that you land on, and then you use Boneshatter to completely annihilate anything that remains alive. The way that this works is with 3 support gems on Leap Slam, starting off with Martial Tempo. Martial Tempo is going to give you 20% more attack speed, which means that you're going to be able to use Leap Slam more often. It's going to jump and land a lot faster. Secondly, and most importantly, we're going to need Brink in here because Brink is going to stop Leap Slam from stunning the target. As you can see, the stun buildup caused by Leap Slam is never going to be able to reach 100%. So if you cannot reach 100% and it goes to 99, for example, or 90, which is very close to being stunned, that means that the target is going to become primed for stun. And that's very important because of Boneshatter that we're going to see in a second. The last one that we need on Leap Slam is going to be Overpower for 50% more stun buildup. How and why this makes sense is because we add this 50% more stun buildup into Leap Slam, and as you can see, Leap Slam already has 74% more stun buildup. But why would you need over 100% stun buildup if we're not going to allow it to stun? Because Boneshatter comes into the picture. Boneshatter is a strike that will cause heavy stun on enemies that are primed for stun. If you don't know what primed for stun is, it's this right here. Normal enemies are primed for stun when they have at least 40% heavy stun buildup. Magic enemies are at 50%, rares at 60%, and uniques at 70%. And Leap Slam, the way that we have the stun buildup, it means that every single time you land, almost everything around you is going to get hit by primed for stun, which then you use Boneshatter to completely destroy everything that's left. The support gems on Boneshatter are also very important because you're going to start things off with Magnified Effect, so you can have 30% more area of effect, and you're going to follow up with Impact Shockwave, which is the most important one on Boneshatter because it's going to create an additional shockwave when they heavy stun an enemy, dealing the same damage to enemies. And I said an additional aftershock because Boneshatter provides its own shockwave that deals tons of damage because of the prime for stun. But these two abilities are the main way that you're going to go through the campaign. Now, for bossing, we've got things like Perfect Strike. Perfect Strike is not an ability you just click once. It's an ability that you actually hold because it's channeling, and if you release it in the moment that it's fully charged, it's going to release a wave of fire, which is the main way that you deal damage for it. So once you click and you hold onto the ability, it's going to start charging, and whenever you see that glow towards the end, it's going to be a Perfect Strike, which is going to deal so much more damage. If we look at the ability, the normal strike is going to convert 40% of physical damage to fire damage. If we look at the Perfect Strike, it also converts 40% physical damage. The attack damage here is almost at 1,000% more. So it's a really good ability for the campaign at least. The support gems that we want here are Fire Infusion for 25% extra fire damage. We don't really care about the other two elements. And lastly, we've got Primal Armament for 25% more elemental damage. The next ability is Shockwave. This is an ability that I really liked whenever I was leveling. It helped out. This is a totem that you put in the ground and it repeatedly damages nearby enemies. And the support gems that we want here are things like Ancestral Urgency for 80% increased totem placement movement speed, and Font of Rage, so you can be able to gain some rage when you're actually using it. Usually this you want to use it on bosses as well, so you can gain some rage while you're perfect striking them down. Next, we've got our Infernal Cry. This ability is what you use to empower your next ability. You can use Infernal Cry just before you Leap Slam, you can use Infernal Cry just before you Boneshatter, or you can use Infernal Cry on bosses just before you perfect strike them. And the two support gems that we want early on are Raging Cry, so you can get more rage based on how difficult the enemy is in front of you. The more power they have, the more rage you're gonna get. And we've got Enraged Warcry, which is what uses the rage, so you can deal even more damage, up to 30% more. Lastly, we've got the Aura, which is Herald of Ash. This is simply gonna explode and deal fire damage to anything and everything that you overkill. Overkill simply means that if the monster has 50 health and you dealt 150, 100 damage is an overkill, which is going to trigger Herald of Ash, causing it to explode and dealing damage to everything around it. But that's basically it, all the abilities that you're going to need from Act 1 to 3 in normal version of the campaign. The gear that you'll want to look for is something like this. For the helmet and for the majority of the pieces here, we're looking for armor, maximum life, strength, and any kind of resistance. The chest is very similar. The belt, again, life, strength, resistance, armor. The boots, some movement speed, and then everything else that we just said. If you can get some life regen, that would be awesome. The gloves, exactly the same. And then we focus on rings like this with some flat physical or fire damage if you can find it, maximum life, some strength. The same goes to the other one, and any resistance that you can get as well. Regarding the amulet, early on you can find something like armor. You can go with mana, level of melee skills, strength, if you can find chaos, good. If not, you can look for some spirit. And then lastly, we've got the weapon. We want to try and get a two-handed mace as soon as we can. We want as much physical damage in there, as many flat damage dealers as well, things like fire damage, cold damage, physical damage, they're all really good. If you can get level of all melee skills, even better, and then strength as well, so we can help with the attribute nodes. Moving on, then we've got the late main build, which is respecting the exact same thing that I just showed you, with a few additions to support gems and some extra skills. For example, Leap Slam keeps martial tempo, brink, and overpower, but now you want to add cadence. Cadence is going to increase your attack speed by 8% every single time you use Leap Slam, and at that point you're going to be dealing so much damage that you're going to be actually spamming it. Boneshatter is going to keep impact shockwave, magnified effect, but now it's going to have armor explosion that's going to convert 100% of your physical damage to fire damage, dealing even more damage with Boneshatter. And lastly, we've got reach for that extra 35% more area of effect. That's right, we're going to have both magnified effect and reach in here. It's going to be super OP, the area of effect that you need for your campaign. Obviously, there's 80% less accuracy. If you miss with Boneshatter, nothing's going to happen, but we will counter this with a passive skill spell that we're going to see in a second in the notes that's going to actually allow you to never ever miss, so it's fine having reach in here. Perfect Strike remains with Fire Infusion like before and Primal Armament, and now we're going to add Window of Opportunity. It says 35% shorter perfect timing window and deals 35% more damage when you release the perfect timing. So at that point, you will need to become better at hitting every single perfect strike that you can, and bosses are seriously gonna melt. And the last support gem that we have here, if you can get to the 4th slot, is Eternal Flame, 100% increase ignite duration of enemies whenever you hit them. So this is going to cause them to burn, and you will deal more damage, because through the passive tree we will be able to pick up attack damage based on burning enemies or ignited enemies. So this works perfectly for the strategy we're going to put into the passive tree. Next, Shockwave Totem remains in the build with Ancestral Urgency into a Font of Rage like before, and now we're going to have Lacerate, 50% chance to inflict bleeding. I mean, why not? It doesn't do anything, it costs a little bit extra mana, but it's fine. If we can put it down there and have the boss bleed and ignite as well while we're trying to land the perfect strikes, it's going to help us melt the bosses faster. We've got a brand new ability added here, one of the most exciting ones for us to try, Hammer of the Gods. Hammer of the Gods is built by Glory by heavy stunning enemies. Guess what? We don't have an issue with Glory, because every single Leap Slam, Boneshatter, Leap Slam, Boneshatter is going to be heavy stunning them or just killing anything. and whenever you reach maximum glory, you're going to be able to release this massive hammer of the gods that's going to fall from the sky, dealing a ton of damage. The support gems that we want on this are things like Fist of War, so we can have ancestrally boosted on this ability for no more than 6 seconds, which is going to help it deal even more damage. We have Heavy Swing for 35% more physical damage, Immolate for the exact same reason as we said before, and lastly, Concentrated Effect for more area damage. Next, we've got our Aura Herald of Ash. The only support gem that I have here is Deadly Herald. Then our Infernal Cry remains the same, but we do have an additional support gem. We keep Raging Cry and Rage War Cry. We now add Premeditation for 15% more damage on the empowered abilities. And lastly, we got Tireless for attack empowered by supported skills have 30% chance to not lower empowerment count, which is very, very significant whenever you pop this into Perfect Strike for the bosses. Next, we've got a brand new aura here. If you do have the spirit, this is going to help you a lot with your tanking. We've got Scavenged Plating, which reserves 30 spirit. What this is going to do, fully breaking on enemies' armor grants you stacks of Scavenged Plating for a duration based on the enemy's rarity, and you gain armor and thorns per stack. This is purely a defensive aura, and the support gem that we want here is Persistence for 40% more skill effect duration. Now, lastly, I kept it at last, is Raise Shield. The reason why I kept it at last is because you only get this ability if you have a shield, and in order for me to show you this, we need to go to the late main build. Now, to avoid any confusion, the way that you can actually equip a two-handed mace and a shield at the same time is a very specific passive skill node called Giant's Blood. Once we get this, you're going to be able to equip either a second two-handed mace or a shield. My recommendation is go for the shield. It's going to provide you with more life, it's going to provide you with more tankiness, and you will be able to get Raised Shield. And why Raised Shield is very important is because you can actually leap cancel your leap slam. Try and get familiar with it and get into the habit of doing it. It's very easy to formulate that combo, but this is what's going to make you deal more damage and go faster in the campaign. Why it's going to help you deal more damage is because whenever you leap slam on its own, you're going to notice that there's a small delay between slamming the ground and recovering so you can start walking again. That 1 second, 1.5 second delay is crucial for later on. What you could do is click on leap slam once and then spam Raise Shield, then leap slam again, spam Raise Shield, and that way you're going to block that gap and be able to start again and recover a lot faster. For the campaign and just general AoE, you leap slam with Raise Shield and Boneshatter. The only thing that changes is that you actually spam Raise Shield in between those two abilities. For bosses, things might prove a little bit more difficult depending on the gear that you currently have. You might need some extra damage, and the way that we get the extra damage is from the passive tree that we're going to see in a second, where you deal a lot more damage on two things. One, burning enemies, and we do ignite them with the support gems that we saw. And the second one is you deal a ton more damage on heavily stunned enemies. So the rotation on bosses can change to starting with Shockwave Totem, then you can leap slam 1 or 2 times. Don't forget about Raise Shield. Whenever the boss is primed to stun, you Boneshatter, that's gonna heavy stun them, and then you Infernal Cry and you Perfect Strike them. Make sure that you hit that Perfect Strike. If you have Hammer of Gods by that time, use Hammer of God as well. That's the full rotation, and it's not mandatory for you to use the entire thing. Most of the times I just walked up to the boss, put the Shockwave Totem, hit them with Perfect Strike once or twice. That got them primed for stun, Bone Shattered, and then used my Cry into another Perfect Strike, whatever actually gets to kill the boss. Again, it all depends on your gear. And speaking of gear, the choices here remain very, very similar to the previous one. As we can see, the helmet has armor, it's got some mana, because at this point you might be struggling a little bit with mana, fire resistance, and regeneration. The chest, I went with a full plate, whatever I could find, but don't forget I did go for Smith of Kitava. We're gonna look at the choices later on, but because of this ascendancy, I decided to go for the full chest nodes right here. That's why you see this, but you can go for anything that's close to this plate right here. Just enhance the mods a little bit more to update to a better chest. Then for the belt, I've got the Infernal Clasp plate plate belt. Once again, I chose to go this because I went for the Smith of Kitava. You can look at the early main build belt and try and build it from there. The most important change here is the shield. Of course, we're adding another piece of gear, which is going to be a shield. You're looking for block chance as much as you can, fire resistance, chaos resistance, stuff like that. They're going to help you defensively. We do have really good damage. We lack a little bit on the tankiness, so a shield is going to help us out a lot. Now, when it comes down to the passive tree for this variation of the build, things are very simple. As I said, you can go whatever ascendancy you want to. If you're going to go for the Smith of Kitava and you get your first 4 points, things are very easy. You want to go for Coal Stoker, and then you want to go for Forged in Flame. The reason why is because any fire resistance you manage to get in your gear is also going to give cold and lightning resistance 50% of its value. And the next point is going to be on Forged in Flame, which is going to do literally the same thing, but for maximum resistances. Maximum resistances means that you can cap it above 75, depending on how much more maximum resistance you have. In case you can get all 8 points in the beginning and you're going Smith of Kitava, is going for Leather Binding, which is 5% maximum life per second, into the physical damage for hits taken as fire damage, into the 20% increased strength, and then the 15% increase maximum life. Now, when it comes down to the passive tree, I want to break it down so you can understand what this build can do. The first step here is we're getting a couple of melee damage and stun buildups here, so we can be able to deal more damage and also prime to stun them more often. We have nodes like Burn Away that we want to rush so we can deal more fire damage and penetrate fire resistance. Then if we move down this path, we start breaking more armor, and it's something very important that you're gonna actually notice that it's being duplicated, and we're getting a lot of them, especially this cluster all the way over here is full with area of effect and attack area damage, because that's what is going to cause your leap slam to almost one-shot everything in the campaign, making it faster to progress through the campaign. Then we focus on things like skill speed, because skill speed is going to help your perfect strike, and it's also going to help your leaps. Then we have even more damage with gain 12% of physical damage as extra fire damage. This is going to increase your damage significantly. Into more damage nodes, we have stun build up again, 40% increased damage with two-handed weapons, into 30% increased area of effect if you've stunned an enemy with a two-handed melee weapon recently. Really good note here, shockwaves. Remember we said that if you want to do the full rotation to deal massive amount of damage on the boss, this is the node that's going to make that possible. But now, there are 4 things that are very, very important in this passive tree while you're leveling to try and rush as fast as you can. Number 1, we've got Resolute Technique. Your hits cannot be evaded. This is the node that will cause you to never ever miss your Boneshatters. So my opinion is try and rush into Resolute Technique as fast as you possibly can. Maybe don't get these extensions right here unless you path through Brutal into Reverberating Impact and immediately going for Resolute Technique first. Second priority is going to be Avatar of Fire, 75% of damage converted to fire damage. Then the third priority here is for you to try and get Brute Strength. This is going to reduce your maximum mana a little bit, but it's going to give you 1% increased damage per 15 strength. And at this point, you should be well over 100 strength. So that's going to give you a lot of damage. And last priority here is to finalize things with Giant's Blood whenever you can actually afford, either A, with currency or with crafting or whatever you're planning to do with the gear, or B, with actually strength requirement to be able to use a shield and a two-handed weapon. Everything else is just enhancing a little bit of tankiness, a little bit of more damage here and stun build up, etc, etc. The only jewel that we have here, I only have one in the campaign. You can either go down here 3 nodes and get a second one. You can either go up here 3 nodes, you can get a third one. But the one that we got in the middle looks something like this. It increases chances of ignite, it has presence area of effect, block chance, which helps us, and 1 rage on melee hit. You can also look for things like increased fire damage, increased area of effect. You can look for more melee damage or damage with maces. All of these things are going to work like a charm for the jewels, but that's basically it when it comes down to the passive skill tree on this variation. And that's going to wrap it up for this guide. For more leveling and endgame builds, as well as beginner friendly and other Path of Exile 2 general guides, drop a like and hit that subscribe button so so you don't miss out on any of the content. If you have any questions about the build or the game, then leave a comment down below, join the community over in Discord, or join me live on Twitch or here on YouTube. You can find all the links down in the description. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.